Sirius 197, XM 202, The Virus. The Ron and Fez show starts right now. It's the best and worst of the decade with Ron and Fez. The Ron and Fez show edition.
Okay, let's get down to it, Papa.
Ron and Fez here as we wrap up the decade. This is basically, Fezzy, the last of the decade's wrap up, and we're going to turn this look internal, and that's to the Ron and Fez show. Davey Mack, you've been with the Ron and Fez show how long?
It'll be close to 4 years in early January.
And before that, you were a listener.
Yes.
So you have spent the entire decade either listening to or working on the Ron and Fez show.
Absolutely. Absolutely 100%.
Chris Stanley, how far back do you go?
In high school is when I started listening to the Ron and Fez show.
About
2001.
Wow, that is crazy.
In the last 3 years, I've been...
I was 99.
Well, that's because you had internet and you were able to listen to us in Florida.
And we're only looking at this decade.
Yeah. And it's not a competition. So let's start this over as we go over, Fezzy, this past decade, what I like to call the decade of Ron and Fez. Let's start off real quick. Producer of the decade. I want you to think about it, Dave. I want you to think about it, Hicks, as a listener, as a person who worked here. But I'll start this off with Fez Whatley. Fez, producer of the decade.
Producer of the decade, I have to give to the man they love to hate. He would infuriate people, Al Dukes.
Wow, would that hurt Rory? Would that one have stung Rory? Why Al Dukes?
Al Dukes, I think he was, besides just being such a train wreck, he would just infuriate people. He would just piss people off just by being Al Dukes.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then, you say just Al Dukes, but we helped him take that persona and take it up a notch. So he really is a performer as well as being just naturally weird, and he's still doing it to this day. Mm-hmm. He's okay off air. He's great on air. So if you wanted to give him side fucking personality, I might be willing to do that a lot more than I am producer. Because he doesn't get a lot done off air, and he will sell you out to the management. In a fucking heartbeat. Davey Mack, let me go to you. And this is tough because you're actually a producer.
Well, yeah, it's difficult. I seem to recall from my listening days that Hawk was a tremendous producer. That's why Hawk is getting the Eastside Dave vote.
Hawk was a producer, much in the way that Hicks is, where Hawk could get things done off air.
And I remember that he always made the show, it seemed like he made the show sound great, but then the occasional time where he was on air for a drinking show, he was fun. But you could tell the reason why the guy is here is because he's a behind-the-scenes guy.
Hawk never had any intentions. And I mean, it wasn't like where Hicks is, where he's in the other room. Hawks would stand behind Fez. And Fez and Hawk would operate as one person. Right. It was the strangest thing. They never talked before or after.
No.
And then drinking, and he never wanted to talk on air. Then when we would drink, he would act like, me, you, and Fez are the only one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he honestly saw it as the three of us and everyone else. And Hawk was the only other person that looked like he could have been related to Mike Kaka, which was amazingly fun about him.
Yeah.
I thought Hawk would have been yours, Fezzy, because that was your smoothest time and your most... there would be no dead air. And I always thought that when Fez lost Hawk is when some of Fez's other problems started.
Okay.
Let's go over and check in right now from Chris Stanley.
So I guess it's a behind-the-scenes thing and a on-the-air thing as a producer.
Yeah.
for on air, I'm going to have to give it to Dave, but for off air, I'm going to have to, the same reasons he said Hawk, I'm going to say Rory from listening then. It seems like Rory had his shit together and made the show sound good. And I guess it's hard to, I was just a listener then, it's hard to really say what's going on behind the scenes.
Right. Quantify that, obviously.
And you did a good thing, like saying Dave is a great on-air producer. That's really not production work. If he was bringing a lot of production to it, in those terms, even that you wouldn't put Dave. Dave is really more like an on-show character. The Dave that you hear here, you know what I mean? He's almost a show personality as much as he is producer. And Rory gave it to off air. I'm going to take it back to being on air and off air, and also saying it best attitude, where the guy would do anything to put the show over 100% of the time. And I don't even think it's close. I'm talking about the great Billy Staples.
Oh,
because
my goodness.
Billy was constantly thinking of show bits that became like, stuff that, hey, we could have a conversation about this. The great thing about Billy, he would hand you 100 ideas. 97 of them would be awful. You would use 3. The next day, you would get 100 ideas. 97 would be awful. 3 would be usable. Most guys will hand you 3 to 5 and go, and then if you don't use them, the next day they're like, well, you don't like my ideas. I don't know what I'm doing. Billy would always just keep fucking handing stuff. And then when we get on air, you want to shoot him with a fucking dart gun. You want him to get drunk. Doesn't matter. He would run through buildings. And then he had the Dave thing of his real personality was funny enough that when he was serious about something, you would still be laughing. When he was angry about something, you would laugh even more. The worst thing that he could do is like, I have a funny idea. Then you would abandon him. But when he would do that, I'm serious, guys. I really mean this. So,
wow.
No doubt about it. It's Billy Staples.
And I'll throw this in for Billy, too. Fastest on the phones.
Oh, yeah. No one's ever come close.
Yeah.
Billy ran the phones and shit like when Radio Shark would get through, Billy would find out his fucking home number and go after him. You know what I mean? Like, he took it all personal. Let's go over to Caller of the Decade, Fez, and I'll let you start this one out. Who was the Caller of the Decade?
He's the Caller of the Decade, although he talks about several different decades. I'm going with the Blowhard. The Blowhard as Caller of the Decade. Not a topic that he can't tie into nostalgia or his own past somehow.
Blowhard's been there since the beginning, still there today. Davey, who's Caller of the Decade?
This is going to be a little bit of a surprise, but he's been with you since A&W, and that's Death Metal Mo. I always liked his calls for this reason.
Good caller.
In and Out. I'm a fan of the In and Out. Comedy Pyramids, very strong suit for Death Metal Mo when they were going on in AW for the New York callers. He still calls up SiriusXM, In and Out, or the only times he elaborates is when it's really pertinent. And he
never
really
makes it about himself.
Exactly.
Really a good caller who sees the overall show.
That's why. I know it's a Cinderella, but that's my pick.
Yeah.
I'm going Blowhard along with
Blowhard.
Along with Fez.
And the Blowhard, of course, is probably the easiest pick to make. But I'm gonna throw off a little bit, and that's a caller who came in, became part of the show, and that's Joe Pooh. I eat my own poo. And his son, Joe Jr., and of course, their nemesis, Kenny Allen. And that was people who at the time were, and we don't have this anymore, I will write a character and have the character call the show.
Right.
You know?
Yes.
That was the great thing about New York callers. And Kenny Allen was a kid, a little kid, and was better prepared than any of the callers that we get today. It might have had something to do with, and I'm very serious. I'm fucking stone serious about it. Most of the callers are what Dave has brought up, just about themselves, where these callers, well, I will get the show over.
Right, yeah. And add if you don't have a whole conversation, just a one-liner can always work.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't need to be the biggest thing.
Ron and Fez show going over the last decade. Let's go with this most shocking moment of the decade on the Ron and Fez show. Fez, I've started two with you. Let me move over now.
Okay.
Let's do something.
Thank you.
Where once in your life, Fez, you don't have to be first.
Thanks,
I'm
Ron.
shocked by this
And
moment.
Take it over to the guy I care about, Chris
Thank you.
Stanley.
Oh,
geez.
thank you.
Yeah.
That was a curve.
Yeah, I did.
I thought that actually happened recently.
Mm-hmm.
The most shocking moment was fucking Fez doing that goddamn Silence of the Lamb dance. I never thought I'd see that.
Wow! In the whole decade,
I thought it was
Fez
just too.
tucking balls and doing the Silence of the Lamb.
He's fucking naked, and he's look the crazy look in his eye. It just really creeped me out more than anything else.
Yeah, Fez, I don't know what. Like here today, he says, we had this conversation last week. I won't take my shoes off. I'm embarrassed at someone's house. And yet here he is naked on the internet. And that thing's being passed around and traded. And they've,
It's not supposed to be. It was supposed to be up on 202 Friends on Twitter for one night.
I don't know what you mean when you say "supposed to," but it is out there. Let's go back to you, Fez. I'm going to make Dave laugh last because I know it would hurt him.
Yeah.
Most shocking moment.
I think it was Black Girl walks away from the Ron and Fez show. He was such a lifer at WNEW where they finally had to say, come and get your stuff, when he decided he was going to quit and had a insane letter of resignation.
The interesting thing about that, Fez, was that no one believed it. And everyone's like, when's the bit pay off, whatever. And to this day, Earl and I talk, and he goes, God, I miss it. I miss the action. That's what it's all about. Huh? And I know for a fact that he has reapplied here at Sirius, but not with us. I don't know whether you guys will just give me a pen.
Wow, that's amazing.
With a legendary show.
Huh. Oh, my God.
Interesting.
Which would be news to Opie. It would, no, and I'm not saying it's the O&A show. It's somebody that, well, just consider as far away from O&A as you can get, and that's who he's applied with. Now, I have no idea whether he gets in or not, but he has applied. Davey Mack.
Okay, well, Fez brought up Earl, but I think I forgot the timeline, but a couple months before he quit, he informed all of us that he had maybe forced his girlfriend to have an abortion. Or there was some kind of crazy ass, I had an abortion, my girlfriend had an abortion, he had a child of his aborted, and no, he had never told this story before, and mouths just hit the fucking floor. It was nuts.
Are we talking about Earl?
Earl Douglas.
Well, this is what happened with that. Earl got confused between abortion and miscarriage.
Oh, miscarriage, okay.
So nobody was aborted.
Okay, but even still, the fact that he had a miscarried child was still shocking in and of itself, because Earl, we all banged twice.
Are you saying that is the most shocking thing?
It was shock. Anything with Earl and dead fetus that was of his sperm was shocking to me. I was shocked, floored. So, yeah, that's my shocking moment.
For my most shocking, it was going to be Fez's secret, and then it didn't get given out. So my most shocking is going to go down as to be continued.
Okay.
But I still believe the secret will be released, just not out there. Let's head over to Best Party. Best Party all time, Ron and Fez. I'm going to start this with Eastside Dave.
Yes! Rockahula Luau was the best party of the decade because it had so many people. It was a perfect point where everyone was still getting along. I loved it.
Everybody, we still were a family then.
That's when there was so many message boards, but for whatever reason, people didn't feel like if I'm on a different message board, I hate you.
Yeah.
It was different message boards. People can still get along because, quite frankly, we don't live our actual physical human lives on message boards. We live them in real life, and people used to get along in real life.
No, the only problem I have with that, as I had before it happened, was a private guest list.
Okay.
And to me, to be a real party, everybody has to be invited.
All right.
Not just the cool couples.
Okay.
Fez, what about for you?
For me, it's the sequel, Big Ass Night of Fights 2 in New Jersey. Here's where my vote comes in for Billy Staples. The Digstown Challenge, taking on 10 different contenders in one match, and then your headliner that night, your main event, was Al Dukes versus Black Earl, where Al Dukes ended up having his master's degree diploma torn up in the middle of the ring.
To madness. When that thing tore up, it blew up. Also, here was the interesting thing about that night. The Digstown Challenge, when we were about the 5th or 6th person, he's fighting 10, he gets knocked the fuck out. As they're counting him out, I had them ring the bell at 9, then jumped in the ring as we're trying to bring back, and said that the judges have claimed that the ring was that the round had already went out, and it was not a knockout, and it was a draw. Everybody's booing. I point at a blank wall yelling the judges, and everyone starts booing, and I'm going like this, wake that fucker up. He's got 6 more people to fight. It was the most carny thing we've ever been involved in, ever. And it was really a fantastic night of fights. Let's go over to Hicks.
Big Ass Bash, Eastside Dave versus the Midnight Rider. That the broadcast and the after party afterwards was the best time I've had at a Ron Fest event. I think I was just an intern for about a month then when they did that event. It was just amazing. I had a great time.
Pepper was kind of like my corner man,
and he almost passed out because he had to sit there and work the 360 with everybody watching him.
But that was the wedding.
Oh, that was the wedding?
That was the wedding a couple months later.
Yeah, he had to, when Eastside Dave did a promo against the Rider, he had to hand me Roberto and the chicken and several props. So he was only doing that, you were only doing a month?
A month, yeah, it was
Jesus
a month. Jesus
Christ.
I'm going to give the parties. Now, if I was like Dave, I'd call them the Lights Out parties at NEW. But again, private list, and I don't get along with the private list things. But I'm going to go back to when we did the Battle of the Bands at the Hard Rock with our good friend Hard Rock Johnny, when there was something like 800 bands or some sick fucking amount that wanted to be at the Battle of the Bands, and we picked 5, and all 5 kicked ass.
Yeah.
And to just look out and see a talk radio audience just fucking into ska and rock and roll and just having the fucking time of our life. And what was great was that we didn't have shit to do other than going, up next is
Monty Love.
The great Monty Love blew the fucking roof off the place.
I remember that. The place got lit like an old Christmas tree.
That was also a performance by Moshin to Slipknot.
Oh, yeah, Moshin. I forgot that. I talked her into going out with Kiss Face. And then the fucking place blew up so big for her that she's like, I'm thinking about we do a signing. And I just go out and sign stuff. And I'd be like, that'd be great if you would, put out a record. You just can't. You have nothing you can sign.
Right. People's palms.
All right, next, let's go look at intern of the decade, and that's the intern's intern. A lot of great people over the past decade. Fezzi, I'm going to start back with you again because it was a nightmare when I started with Dave.
Sure, I understand.
Right away, he picks a private fucking party.
Oh, God.
And,
awful.
Invite only.
And
that's
all
him.
that was supposed to be was about special couples, and I got no time for you. Fezzi, what for you, or who for you would be intern of the decade?
Intern of the decade for me is Lily. And
wow, I'm shocked.
Yeah, and the success she went on to after leaving her internship with the Ron and Fez show, being on the Brother Wee's morning show in Rochester. Very proud of Lily. I think she's intern of the decade.
Yeah, we are all proud of Lily. Although I forgot that she was an intern. I don't know why I thought she was a producer.
Yeah, she was an intern.
The odd thing was she was brought in because Black Girl had a crush on her and got her in that way.
She had a very rocky start for a while, and then one day she just found her groove.
Just bloomed.
Yeah, she was great.
There was no looking back.
She was a lot of fun.
No looking back.
David Mack, what about for you? Intern of the decade.
Well, I'm going to say Killer Joe. Because, no, but seriously,
Killer Joe?
That's why I said it.
Killer Joe came in when we were at the studio on 57th Street, and Earl was having a meltdown after the show, and Killer Joe came in for his interview and just found himself in the middle of an Earl intervention.
Right. And while that was fun, then he was never heard of again for the rest of his semester. So my real answer would have to be... Keisha was an intern for you guys, correct?
Yes, she was.
So I'm going to say Keisha, because I want to bring up a WJFK time period since no one has. Keisha.
And Keisha, by the way, is doing really great on the Internet and writing some stuff as some kind of a sex answer lady.
Yeah.
We ought to book her and get her to come back on the show.
There we go.
Fez, book her to start off the new year with Keisha, because I like to talk dirty sex stuff with people who like to talk dirty sex. Let's go over here to Hicks.
I'm going to give it to Bronx Johnny, because I knew him as a listener and then met him when I became an intern and later producer. And I don't remember any other intern being as loved as he was all over the message boards and for his bits extravaganza. And he was always fucking hysterical on the air.
I'm going to pick as my intern of the decade, and I can't remember whether it was Thing 1 or Thing 2, but one of them, they did something, and I grabbed them by the neck, threw them out the door, and they were never seen again.
That was Thing 2.
Yeah, the last I saw, they had left their feet and were heading out the door.
What happened?
I can't. Who can ever remember? Who can ever remember what happened?
What happened?
What happened? Looking back over the decade of the Ron and Fez show, it's weird 10 years has gone by so quick, Fezzy.
It's gone by very, very quickly.
We will take a break. We'll be right back to pick up more, including Meltdown of the Decade.
Whoa.
It's all coming up on the Ron and Fez show. Ron and Fez show, 866 Ron Zero Fez, 866 Ron Zero Fez. Talking about the 10 years, the decade of Ron and Fez. It was, we said here on January 1st, going over the last 10 years. Crazy stuff, Fezzy. What about some of these memories from NEW? Al Dukes gets kissed by Gay Randy, destroys Anthony's pinball machine. Al Dukes loses the bladder buster and pisses. Billy's drunken date with lobster claws.
Just a mess, both of them.
Billy admits that he molested a drunk girl.
As he claimed he just diddled her, Ron.
Rucker Hauer left in the studio alone. Billy wiping his ass with Al's checks. And that's where we started the Bad Guess contest, where we would just have these people on the air and only characters would call them. The Enema Joke-Off, where Opie won. Funniest human being ever.
That was Paulo in a waiting pool with an enema full, and whoever made him expel on a laugh won.
Then, of course, JFK. Of course, that was the time of Crazy Jen. Kathleen from the Bronx. We started to really hang out with Mikey Boy a lot more. Wonder Boy destroyed J-Dubs' car. Bits freaks out under hypnosis. And then, of course, SiriusXM. Elfish and Fez go to Graceland.
Nightmare.
The Midnight Rider joins the show. Fez got ruined on a week of silence by yelling at Earl. Jay Morris sent Dave to the hospital with hot sauce. Roberto meeting David Blaine. Pizzi admitting to Ookie Cookie. We lost Gail O.
Yeah. Jesus.
Fez's relationship and then break up of that relationship with Don Cumia. So many memories over the past 10 years. Let's go to Nut of the Decade. Start this one with Pepper Hicks. Pepper Hicks, who was the real nut of the last 10 years?
I'm going to say a guy who I met here as a producer, AJ Dynamite, was the creepiest, weirdest person I've met here.
AJ has just only recently stopped texting me about movie deals that he's getting done. So I got to figure he's either dead or arrested.
And the way he looked at women in the studio, the guy had to have been a rapist or had some
what's
sort
her phone number? David, can you get me her phone number? No.
Good news. Regis loves what we're doing, and we've now got 100 share.
David, I'm going to host SNL next week.
Do you want in?
Jimmy Buffett's the musical guest. Like, nothing would make sense.
Yeah, no. So that's great. Then it would be like, it's all happening.
I love that guy.
What do you got as a nut of the decade?
This one's, again, another recent. I just love him to death, and that's Crazed.
Mm-hmm.
Especially after going to the Hard Rock Cafe to look at Michael Jackson's glove with that guy.
It's so much fun.
I just didn't realize that we get, used to Crazed, and just when me and Crazed were walking to Hard Rock, people were partying.
Yeah.
It was better than, having, a cop badge. Everyone's just like, I am staying far away from this guy. So, there was, a lot, there was, 30 people looking at the Michael Jackson thing. We just went front and center because people literally moved for Crazed.
And you. I know that you don't get this.
All right, maybe.
But you're every bit as nutty as Crazed.
Well, you can accept with him.
Anyway, he's the best.
Fez Whatley, nut of the decade.
Her first name is Crazy. Crazy Jen is the nut of the decade.
Yeah.
There is nothing she wouldn't try. Tried to do the hard-boiled egg challenge once, like in Cool Hand Luke.
But she doesn't win at any of them.
Never comes through on any of it. Tried to be a superhero on a reality show. Tries everything. Took trapeze lessons. She's a nut. It's Crazy Jen.
Yeah, I really needed to promote her as a highlight from the JFK era, too.
Yeah.
And the listeners all acted like they hated her until she stopped calling in, and then they're like, we really miss her.
Yeah.
And that's why you can never trust your fucking feedback, folks. You can't be trusted.
It's always the same.
Love Crazy Jen, perfect for a nut of the decade. Love AJ Dynamite, perfect for nut of the decade. Loved Crazed for as nut of the decade. But let me say this: unlike my winner, none of them spent a week at Four Winds Nut House. None of them have the credentials as our own Fez Whatley.
Well, I mean, it's unexpected.
I mean, let's go through all the insane people that we've known over the year. You're the only one who's done time. Billy Staples hasn't done time in there.
Well, and also, I think one thing that helped me, I guess, for your pick is it didn't catch. It just really didn't work. A week in a mental institution.
Well, I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe you're getting better. I can't say for sure. Let's go over now to, since I set up Fez, Meltdown of the Decade. You've been in a couple, but there have been even a few more out there. Fezzy, I'll start this with you. Meltdown of the Decade.
I think it really has to go to Al Duke smashing the foosball table, turning it over.
Fantastic meltdown. And he ended it in tears, too, which was always great.
Ended in a production studio under the console, sobbing away. At that point, I don't think could break down any more than he actually had.
Let's send it over to Dave now. Davey.
Oh, I don't think there's any chance of this one. It's Fez and Mikey D, the granddaddy of all meltdowns, in my humble opinion. WJFK.
That started it all. That's Fez's birthday. And when those tears started with Whatley, they just never stopped.
Has he ever cried before?
No. 9/11, he didn't cry.
That was my Pandora's box moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why. That's got to be number one.
It's tough to and you've never forgiven Mikey D to this day.
Oh, no, I have been done with him since.
Which I don't still understand, because he's there for you, and he's ready to be friends. Hicks, what about you?
It's Fez's crazy breakdown, WJFK. I remember hearing that on O&A when I didn't have access to JFK before you guys came over.
It made the rounds.
And I was just like, what the fuck is going on down there?
Right.
What the fuck has happened?
Yeah.
Fez crying and freaking out on Mikey D. This is fucking crazy town.
Yeah, you got the other Fez returned to you. If you were just in New York, you knew one Fez, then we went to Washington, and another Fez came back. And I imagine it has to be like if you were in a family and your son went to Vietnam in the late 60s, early 70s, and came back a changed man. Something happened to Fez.
Right. Yeah, it was disturbing. It was, oh my God.
It was a drunken crying birthday meltdown.
We have the audio if you want to hear it.
Sure, I'd like to hear some.
And Mikey, I swear to you in heaven, you never cut me slack once during this month. That has probably been the worst month of my life. You never cut me slack once.
Okay, Fez, why don't we do this? Because a lot of this, I know you've had a lot of stress.
And this has been the worst month of my life.
I know, buddy.
And somehow, through some irony of God, through some joke that he finds funny, that the Supreme Being finds funny, my birthday ends up at the end of this month that I have had the most brutal time of. I'm supposed to sit here and take, and drink and have a great time.
Mm-hmm.
Act like
you see, in those days, I still wasn't treating him as if he was completely insane. You could hear that I'm still like, okay, pal, some light switch just went off.
It makes less sense every time I hear it.
Yeah. And that's why I don't understand why you're still mad at Mikey D.
Because Mikey D, anytime I tried to make up with Mikey D again, some other problem would occur. His tickets for a show wasn't good enough. Mm-hmm. His wife and daughter had to be in Polo's movie. Something else to annoy me would come up. So, in the interest of health, I decided just don't be friends with him. And it's that simple.
It's a legendary moment.
So we have went now from Fez winning Nut of the Decade into Meltdown of the Decade. And maybe that one could just start us off for Feud of the Decade. Fez Whatley, Mikey D. I don't know whether we've had a bigger one. Because there were two guys, best pals, and the fight has now lasted 6 years. And I still talk to Mikey. He's going like, I miss you, buddy, and I wish we could all get together again. I mean, still, after 6 years. It's insane how long this has gone on.
Yeah, he still doesn't get the message.
No, it's still, after a certain point, I don't know why it's not dropped. Anything, who would be for you, Feud of the Decade?
I think Joe Pooh, Al Dukes. I mean, Joe terrorized Al, and that's what actually brought about the big-ass night of fights to begin with.
They fought each other?
Yeah, that was the very first big-ass night of fights on Long Island.
The one we did out on Long Island.
And I think there was real hate there, and Joe Pooh actually smoking in the corner during this boxing match.
Really funny. Joe Pooh could really do some funny shit. What about for you, Hicks?
Billy Staples, Al Dukes, while they worked together, was some of the funniest shit ever. And the way Billy Staples tortured Al Dukes, and it was just hysterical.
Yeah, Billy Staples, and Al used to really get off a lot of great. Al would just always hit him with fat. It would just be just constant, and that would really, like, still get to Billy. Even though he had the nickname Fat Guy or whatever before that, he still hated that Al would bring that up. What about for you, Davey Mack?
Well, I didn't want to vote for myself at all, but I did make Earl choke me one time on the air and then stare at his hands in Cain and Abel anguish. And to me, that's why I would throw that out, as me and Earl had some big feuds. But that particular one where finally me doing an impression of his dead grandmother, I don't know what. He wouldn't find humorous about that. But he finally snapped and just choked me and knocked me off the chair. Like it was fucking...
How many to do?
Like it was Piper's Pit or something. It was a very weird, uncomfortable moment.
Going over some of these great moments of the past decade. And feuds just happen constantly.
All the time.
There were nothing but feuds.
You know, I'll throw out another Al Dukes one. Al Dukes versus Gay Randy. Where Gay Randy would call and Al would just lose it.
All right, so let's just call this.
Yeah, and
the winner goes to Al Dukes versus fill in the blanks.
Okay, that's fair, because you could say Al Dukes versus Opie, you know.
Oh, just on and on. Anthony.
Dukes, yeah.
It just happened one time. So it's Al Dukes versus Planet Earth.
That'd be a good show for Spike.
All right, let's go over into Best Song. And I don't want to just limit it to song parody, because there were so many great ones over the years. So, Davey Mack, start with you. Best song.
Mighty Horse by the Great Sleeves. I just find to be an amazing.
Sleeves needs to be represented here.
Just an amazing song. I mean, it's a great song.
Mm-hmm.
And then it happened to talk about the Ron Fez show and the Ron Fez topic.
All right, let's play a little bit of that.
Graffiti artist and consultant to designer Mark Echo. Oh, he was arrested for spray painting subway cars in Brooklyn.
You know, I'm a fan of the graffiti because I was an old school graffiti artist myself. My specialty was the peace sign, just the word the who, the backwards SWAT sticker. I'd draw the road runner, just the word the who, repent 13, the word the who. Yeah, those type of things.
It's a guerrilla movement, that's the way it goes, and it's the art of getting up, getting known, and then you take that vehicle and you go other places once they know you.
The higher you can tag something, the more respect you're going to get. The more outlandish you tag, the more respect you're going to get in the community.
I know a person, everywhere they go, they tag Mighty Horse rocks the fat ass. 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 Mighty Horse rocks the fat ass.
When Mighty Horse rocks, he rocks.
As Sleeves, he's had so many. And this one, of course, people actually started to do videos for. And you can't beat that one. Hicks, what about for you?
It's got to be Paranoid, The Phone's Blowing Up song. It was so good and catchy and appropriate.
Who didn't love that song? Of course, that was always a fun time to run in the office and smoke a little bit of a cigar.
Someone needs to fix these phones so Ron and Fez can do their show. Every fucking time they get something good going, the motherfucking telephones keep on blowing up. Every fucking time they get something good going, the motherfucking telephones keep on blowing up. Why won't we
Fix the telephones.
Why won't we Why won't we How can you build a pyramid without the callers calling in? How can you give out a big ass prize to losers like me who have no life? The Ron and Fez Show on XM Radio. Ron and Fez Show.
Fezzy, what about for you? We're talking about best songs.
I'm going to stick with the artist Paranoid, but I'm going with a different song. This one, sweet, touching song, and it ended up being prophetic, The Ballad of Gail O.
This will surprise you. This was a B-side. This wasn't even supposed to be put out
Are
there.
You serious? I didn't know.
Yeah.
A lot of people who listen to this, please don't take drugs.
She's not happy, and she's not normal anymore. She's so lonely. She's
before Christmas?
I hope so.
She's afraid.
I'm afraid that if I die before he will, and I think what's going to happen is he won't care at all.
He won't care at all if you're gone.
I'm gone. I'm gone. I'm gone.
Probably going to commit suicide.
If you die first, I probably will commit suicide.
Wow. Heavy stuff there. I want to go, and you know how easy it is to pick this one for me. I think it's the greatest parody song ever written, and that's Brother Joe's song about Black Earl.
I was born and raised in New York City, in a housing project way up in the hood. I dressed in dark clothing, so folks started calling me Black Earl. Oh, and they used to laugh about it, cause deep down they knew they called me that, cause I was as black as soot. I've always been a lazy man, a couch potato with a clicker in my hand. See, motivation I never had, hid in the shadows when the boss got mad. For 20 years I never got a raise. I'm 33 and I never been late. I look busy but I'm not, I'm just walking around. I pick up some papers and I put them back down. Someday I'm gonna stop paying my rent, live in a refrigerator box, never get out of bed. I'm Black Girl, a genuine lazy bum. I'll always make it through hard times in any W. Then one day some lame brains came and took O&A away. And at the age of 33, I felt like I was carrying the weight of the whole station on my shoulders. And Ron and Fezzi knew what I was going through. Every morning I'd unlock the door, lay down and I'd sleep a little more. Then I put away the bathroom key. Everybody was depending on me. I eat a chicken wing with lemonade. Lord, give me strength to make another day. Times I felt I couldn't go on. Push a button, throw a switch, answer the phone. Got lost in the van, I did my PSAs. 10 minutes work gonna take me all day. I'm Black Girl, a genuine lazy bum. I'll always make it through hard times at any W. I could hear Scotzo say, Black Girl,
what a perfect song.
genuine lazy bum.
And I never get tired of hearing it. It's like Hey Jude. I could hear it every day and I'd be fine with it.
Yeah.
All right, I think it's about that time, Fezzi, as we look back over the last decade, and this is like the big award. I think that this is almost like the big picture award there at the Oscars, and this would be friend of the show, all time, being there for you. Who do you pick? There's so many different people.
Yeah.
And a lot of their names have already come up tonight for different reasons. Let's start it off. Let me start this off with Chris Stanley. Chris Stanley, all-time friend of the show.
Mikey boy. Has to be.
The saint of the internet.
Saint of the internet.
What would you base that on?
Being the head of RonFez.net for so many years.
Yeah, but then switching over and now running to Two Friends Twitter?
That's fine. He's still with the show.
Okay.
He's still helping.
I see what you're saying. What about for you, Dave?
Man that comes to mind has a lot of strength, inner power. His name is Greg's Vacation.
That's
and
a shocker.
Yeah.
That's a shocker, but he's always been there for you.
He's always been there for you. You talked about Battle of the Bands. Crankcase was there, kicking ass.
I will honestly say this. If I had to dump a body, I would call GVAC.
GVAC. I know it's a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
No one saw that coming from Davey Mack.
And a good point. Put together such a great band for us before.
That was almost the Ron Fez band, you know?
It would have been without the fight. With Fezzi having the bad fight kept that from happening.
That's why I said almost.
What do you got for us, Fez?
Highlight of the decade, Kathleen from the Bronx. Shining star in the middle of the 2000s, right there. And Mama would do anything for you.
She is kind of the den mother of the Ron and Fez show.
Wonderful, wonderful person.
Yeah.
I've gotten to become friends with her for in the past 3 or 4 years, and she's fantastic.
She doesn't care much for you.
And
No.
Really?
Yeah.
And let's not forget a huge 55-yard reception in the big game.
Mm-hmm.
That was right before Mikey Boy took the team to took RonFez.net to the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
Kathleen from the Bronx's play was huge.
Right there, right time.
Yep.
All good names everybody brought up. I'd have no problem with any of these guys being the all-time friends of the show. I'm a little surprised no one, and it's a sense of history, a guy like Carter, who started RonFez.net with nothing but a can of Brill Cream and some hope and a dance belt, and he got the whole thing started. But over on, if you're going to use your history and think, and you look at people like Arch and all those guys who run Line of the Day, now closing in on 10,000.
Yeah. Wow.
Friends of the show. But overall, we'll fly high with them, and we'll slither like snakes. We'll fly like eagles, and we've slithered like snakes. We've been through the whole ride with our good buddies, O&A. O&A, never been anything but gentlemen, and been through this whole damn crazy ride together. It's been an insane 10 years. And by that, I mean, in Fez's case, clinically insane.
Nut of the decade.
So, congratulations.
Thank you.
Call your folks with the good news.
Did you hear?
Yeah. And that is it for us. We'll be back doing live shows. And I want to thank everybody for listening here over your Christmas vacations. Stay tuned for the best of Ron and Fez.